Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the panel event. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to let people get in while I'm admitting everybody. If you guys want to get the chat started, you guys can say where you're zooming in from so we can see where people are talking from tonight. I can get this party started. Ooh, Colorado. I always forget you're in Colorado, Adina.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
But I always forget you're in Colorado.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Oh, San Diego, Los Angeles, Chicago, Bay Area. We got a couple Bay Area people tonight. Beautiful, beautiful. San Jose, very nice. Sonoma County, nice. San Francisco. Utah, oh wow. Ventura. Berkeley. Oh, Berkeley's beautiful. Los Angeles, yeah, another LA area. Alrighty. LA, San Fernando Valley. Oh, good to know. Not that I'm keeping a list. That sounded more ominous than it meant to. Santa Cruz. Me too. Nice. Okie dokie. We'll give people a couple more minutes just to get popped in. Oh, Huntington Beach. Oh, Lauren. Hi, Lauren. I don't know. I missed that. Okie dokie. This is always the most awkward part of Zoom meetings. Oops. Don't do that. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, welcome. We have a lot more people than I thought. So I'm gonna ask that if you're not on the panel to keep yourself muted. And your screen, well, I guess you don't have to keep your screen off. But totally let's use the chat for the Q&A part. So the format of this event will be, we're going to introduce our 6 panelists. They're going to share a little bit about what their role was on the EC for SLASC, what year they graduated, and where their career has taken them post San Jose. And we'll give each of them about 3 to 5 minutes to present about themselves, and then we're going to open it up to questions. Please put your questions in the chat, and then Jenny and I will make sure we get to as many as we can for the Q&A part after that. So we're gonna go over to our next slide. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Laura, I'm the president of SLASC, and let's get this party started. So for our panel, we have JonLuc Christensen, Lauren Kime, Tina, I don't know, I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Kremzner? Kremzner-Hsing. The Hsing is actually like an SH, but
Did I do it backwards? Sorry.
yeah. No. It's just the pronunciation that's
Oh,
SH to help people.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hannah Martin, Amy Nykamp, and Sereen Sulieman. And so we're gonna start with Sereen, and then we're gonna go back to the top because she's gonna hop off a little bit early. So Sereen, if you want to introduce yourself, get us started. Thanks.
Okay, so hello everyone, and it's so good to be back in SLASC again. Thank you again, Laura, for inviting me to the panel. It's good seeing familiar faces as well as some new ones. So I served on SLASC from 2021 to 2023, first as a second assistant blog editor. Then as the blog editor, and finally as the archivist. And I always look back at my time at SLASC fondly. I like it was full of wonderful learning experiences, and I grew significantly as a leader. So my SLASC journey started when Max Gonzalez-Burdick, the former blog director, he recruited me as the second assistant. And through his guidance, I gained the confidence to become the blog director after he left in 2022. And as the blog director, I was responsible for not only publishing my blogs, but training my first and second assistant blog editors to become future leaders, as well as proofread their blogs. However, once the archivist position opened up in 2023, I jumped on that, or I should say, it opened up in summer of 2022. I jumped on that opportunity because I've always been passionate about archives and organizing information. So in the summer of 2022 to the summer of 2023, I served as the archivist. And as the archivist, I was responsible for organizing the chapters files in Google Drive, as well as archiving their event recordings on ScholarWorks. I will be honest, I enjoyed being the archivist much more than the blog editor, but at the end of the day, I enjoyed both positions immensely, as I love to write and organize information. So I graduated in fall of 2023, and I will admit, searching for a job was not fun. It was very stressful. There were many days I cried, but I want to say, don't be so hard on yourself if you're not able to get a job within the first couple of months you graduate. It will take time, and depending on the institution and their applications, like just filling out even one application can be a time-consuming endeavor. That being said, through hard work, sweat, and tears, I managed to get 2 part-time librarian positions at Orange Coast College and Irvine Valley College. And I'm thrilled because community college libraries were the number one environments was the number one environment I was going for. So yeah, I can't wait to get started. I still haven't been brought on yet, but the tasks that I'll be doing will involve watching over the reference desk and teaching instruction sessions, both in person and on Zoom. So that's a little bit about my story, my postgraduate story, as well as my time in SLASC. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Serene. If you want to drop your email in the chat for people to reach out to you, because I know you might have to leave before the end, that would be great. But thank you so much. And next, we're going to move to JonLuc.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. It's good to see a lot of friendly faces. I see a lot of folks on here that I already have gotten to know, but of course, some new happy faces. So it's very nice to meet you all. My name's JonLuc Christensen, and so I was at SJSU in the MLAS program from 2017 to through 2019 or into 2019. During that time, I served as the assistant programming director for SLASC. I was also the vice president, president, and past president through over my several years in the program there. I was very involved at the school at the time, so I was also the president and founder of the First Generation Student Group. So, for any of you who might be members or first generation yourself, I highly recommend getting involved with the First Generation Group as well. And then, so like I said, I graduated in May of 2019, and I have been busy ever since. So currently my primary role is as the records manager for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is a facility, it's a NASA facility that's operated by the California Institute of Technology. In that role, I have many other roles that I do. I'm the lead FOIA liaison, so Freedom of Information Act, if any of you are interested in that. I'm also what's called an Information Configuration Management Engineer. So I'm embedded in a project for an instrument on board the International Space Station, and I do the information and configuration controls for that project. And then I'm involved in a whole variety of other projects and committees and things at JPL. Kind of my favorite one is that I sit on the Inclusion Advisory Council. So it's a council of JPL employees who advises the lab's leadership on various issues related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and so forth. In addition, I am also a faculty member at SJSU. I teach in the ISDA program. I teach technology, culture, and society. So none of you will probably get to be in that class because it's the undergraduate program. But I do love teaching that, and I've been doing that since 2021. So they think this is my fifth semester, my fifth cohort of students doing that. And I'm also on the board of directors for SLA International. So if you are a member of our larger parent organization outside of the student chapter, I'm on the board of directors. I have been since 2022, and this is my last year on the board, so I'll be rolling off in December. And that's me. Thank you.
Beautiful. Awesome. JonLuc, you were the first SLASC event that I ever attended, my first semester joining SLASC. And hearing you, this is like full circle for me coming back to this. So thank you for sharing. Tina.
Hello. I am Tina. Well, hello everyone. I always want to say welcome. I was so used to being the one running these events, but I used to be the programming director for SLASC. I was at SJSU MLS program from 2021, and then graduated this past May in 2023. And I was on SLASC, I think, for that entire time except for my last semester. And right now I am the database and digital asset manager for the Magnus Jewish Collection of Art and Life at UC Berkeley. It's a museum, archive, library that's affiliated with the university. It used to be an independent museum up on Russell Street in Berkeley, if anyone is familiar with the area. But then in 2007, they decided to merge with the university, and a lot of our archives went to the Bancroft. And yeah, so I am now the digital asset manager, and I work with the collections team mostly with their collection management system. But I think there's definitely it's interesting to go into the museum world where digital asset management isn't as well defined as like in comparison to collection management. And so, yeah, but it's interesting because you're working with all the images of the objects, but then you have to consider the images of installations or exhibits, and then all the assets that you have produced from the plaques and brochures and marketing materials, as well as the acquisitions and accession documents that you have to keep for legal reasons. And yeah, but it's a very new role. I started out in December of 2023. I was like Sereen said, I was in that job searching phase for, I think, about 6 months after graduating. And while I was searching, I got 2 part-time positions, both as contractors, one at the Ethnic Studies Library at UC Berkeley, processing Chinese materials, and then one as a digital asset manager at General Assembly, which is, if I'm not sure if people have heard of it, that's like a tech boot camp, and they have a lot of campuses around the United States and across the globe. And they needed a digital asset manager for their marketing materials. But again, that was like a short-term project. And then I started full-time at UC Berkeley this past December, so I'm still relatively fresh. And yeah, that's me.
Yay, so good to see you. Thank you for sharing. All right, Hannah, I think you made it in. Am I wrong?
Oh, can you hear me?
There we go.
I'm Hannah Martin. I graduated in fall of 2022, which is always a weird time warp to try to count back. I was the assistant archivist for a couple of years, I believe, and then I became the president in the fall of 2022. And currently I'm as a librarian at the City of San Diego Public Library System. I originally started as a library assistant prior to my graduation because I had no library work experience, so that I just decided to take the jump and take on a part-time assistant position. And then once I got my degree, I was able to apply for the librarian's opening because they do like if it's government, they do like kind of a circular, like they're open all the time, but they open like every 6 months or something like that. And I'm now at and I moved branches, which was different to like kind of leave your old job, but like stay in the system, which has been a different experience. But I like my current branch is really neat. I like my boss. I'm still part-time, which is fine. But I've considered like trying to maybe try to get into community colleges or something else. So it's kind of a neat opportunity to possibly do other types of librarianship. It's kind of a surprise to me because I was originally kind of interested in academics, but I ended up in public just because that's what was available and where I got the job. And it is true that's kind of the most stressful postgraduate life is just trying to get in the door and try to get the job. But I like what I'm doing and I'm happy I'm doing library work, so that's good.
Yay, well, thank you. I'm so sorry, Lauren. I just skipped you. I don't even know how I did that. Okay, so we're going to circle back up and then Amy's going to finish us. So ignore my list because it's completely out of order. So Lauren Kime.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. I am the last year's president prior to Laura. I was with SLASC from 2021 to 2023 when I graduated, so I was there for every semester of my master's program. I had a great time. I started as the second assistant blog editor under Sereen, actually. And then when Sereen left, I moved up to the assistant blog editor for a short time and then stepped in as vice president under Hannah. And then after that, I was president. So I know a lot of people here. I did graduate this past December 2023. When I graduated, I actually already had a role as a digital asset coordinator for a agency called AV Squad, where we handled like movie trailers, posters, key art, things that you see at like the movie theater that you can like pose with that are like movie poster-esque. I handled all of the photography, videography, everything for that within the digital asset management realm. Then about 6 months after starting that role, I was approached by another company and I was offered a role which I accepted and just recently started with NBC Universal, where I am a digital asset manager for their global asset management team. So we handle all digital assets owned by Universal, NBC, and Comcast companies that are used globally. So including Latin America, Asia, anything and everything that has to do with any property that they own. I help manage and deal with not only the handling of the assets, but also a lot of working with like the legal teams and getting releases from talent and various companies that we work in partnership with. It is a wild job that has a lot more than I ever realized could go into digital asset management, but it's a fun challenge and I really enjoy it, and I like what I do. And that is me.
Yay. All right, Amy, bring us home, or to this point.
So I had the privilege of being on the SLASC with JonLuc. I started my adventure with the MLIS program in January of 2016, joined the SLASC in December of 2016 as the Assistant Communications Director. And then I eventually became the Vice President / President-elect under JonLuc. And then he got that wonderful job at NASA and the JPL. I was so envious of that, because I thought, wow, he's not even out of school and he's got this fantastic job. Oh, I wish I could do that. But I became president and then graduated with JonLuc in 2019 as well. So my journey has been a little bit different from everyone else's. I'm not in the digital asset side. I work for the Sonoma County Public Library System, and I worked as an extra help librarian for the better part of 3 years, and that actually gave me a lot of experience bouncing around to 15 different branches and getting to know everybody, which really helped when I was applying for different positions, because then I knew all of the people who were interviewing me. And as even though I wasn't hired right away for any of those positions, I got really good at doing interviews. And that was key. So when I finally was hired as an adult services librarian in charge of the Spanish collection at one of the branches, I was over the moon. I still am. So that was just in November of last year. And I really love my job. So I will say that the things I learned in the SLASC, aside from what I learned in the MLIS program, really have helped bring me to this point, and I don't regret anything. It's been a wonderful journey.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We have our first question. So to all of our attendees, if you have any questions, type them in the chat, and I'm just going to read them in order that they come in. And Jenny's going to help me moderate the chat. So this one, the first one from Paula is, what job boards do you look for SLA jobs? I'm aware of the SLA website job board, but I would love to know if there are any others that you can share.
I'll hop in and say that for me, I utilize LinkedIn a lot. I feel like for a while there really weren't a lot of SLA-esque jobs on there. But if you do some proactive searching, I'm finding that a lot of the time they're not so much using like library in the title of the job. It's more like research assistant. But like if you go through and you actually read a lot of like the descriptors of what they're looking for, a lot of what you're learning actively applies to these jobs. So like even if the title doesn't seem right, definitely read through the descriptions, because I've seen a lot of jobs popping up in that vein throughout LinkedIn. Additionally, I know it's like beating a dead horse because it's what everyone says, but utilize your network as best you can. When someone tells you that they don't mind you reaching out or asking for a recommendation or anything, like they truly mean it. Like don't feel like you're pulling someone's leg or doing something that they're not willing to do, they wouldn't offer to help you if they did not mean it. So utilize that network.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Tina. I echo what Lauren was saying. I think a lot of it is connection, so it's good to make connections with people. And what I learned in me asking questions and asking around, like it's always kind of nervous or awkward to ask people, but then I always get kind of reminded that the reason people are librarians is because they like to help people, and they're usually nice people. So like asking for help, usually most people jump in and are like, "Oh, we know. Well, like we can find stuff." In terms of job boards, like if you're looking to like other government is like you can do like governmentjobs.com, but sometimes a lot of times you have to go. I found sometimes it's you go through like the city website itself is where you find it, like city or county. I think also kind of like similar to what Lauren's saying, if you kind of think about where or what you want to do, like sometimes thinking about like even what that could possibly be, and then having that help you try to think about what your search is. Like if you're like, I want to be in a museum, or because sometimes, yeah, their titles are different, or especially if you're doing special libraries, they might be something in a unique location or doing a unique job that you wouldn't necessarily, might have a weird thing that you're searching for. So sometimes if you can think of something that you're liking, then you can maybe go around the route of like, oh, it'd be so awesome if I could do X, Y, or Z, and then try to search and think, oh, there's a museum that exists for that, and then somehow you can dive into that and find out more, get to know somebody or whatever.
Yeah, I second what Hannah says. I think I was spending a lot of time just on the different UC campuses websites or job boards. I think the UC system is like a little city in itself. And so if you just either want to work for UCOP, like the president's office, or any of like a specific campus, if you go to their job boards, they're constantly posting. And I saw a lot of jobs there. You have to go to their specific job board. It might not be posted elsewhere sometimes, or it might not be refreshed as quickly, but there's also forums for digital asset management. If people are interested, there is a Discord channel, and then also SLA. I found out about jobs word of mouth through SLA connections. And so I highly recommend either getting involved in their local chapter or SLASC. Yeah.
One other thing that I'll say too is don't be afraid of like contract work. I know, Tina, you said that you had also done it. I've taken on contract work as well, and a lot of companies that help you to get the contract work have their own individual job boards. So you just have to look up like the contracting companies and then look at their websites, because they will have their own postings that sometimes aren't posted anywhere else. And that's how I got my current full-time position, is through one of those job boards.
Yeah, definitely. My contracting position was one of my favorite jobs so far, and I wish I still worked there.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to the next question? All right. Well, the next question is, what are some skills you foresee being important to the SLA field in the future?
I have a quick one. If anyone is bilingual or has another language skill, I think that is a lot of how I got jobs, or if people reached out to me, is like, if you know a specific language, people are needing cataloging for that. And it's a really easy way to get in the door, even if it's very informal. People will, didn't get a job I applied to, but then they emailed me separately saying, well, we do have a lot of Chinese materials. And for my current position, I don't have a Jewish background, but they said that they saw that I have like background in processing and working with Chinese materials, and they just wanted someone who knew how to work with non-Roman scripts. And so even if it's not this specific language, knowing how to process different languages still gives you, I guess, like a contextual or nuanced perspective when dealing with different metadata. So I definitely think if you are bilingual, or if you're partly bilingual, definitely work on that and definitely use it to your advantage. And also you can argue for higher pay if you do have a second or third language.
I agree with Tina. Being bilingual does really help. And I know that in our public library system, if you get into the translating, if that becomes like 10% of your job, they give you $2 more an hour. But I will also say stay on top of the technology. I'm constantly getting asked, how do I do thus and so on my iPhone? How do I do thus and so on my MacBook? How do I, so there's just all sorts of things in the tech world, and it's hard to keep up with it, but do as much as you can in school, and that'll give you a leg up.
I'll also say language is a big one, like Tina said. One of the big initiatives that I've seen within the past few jobs I've held in the last few years is a move towards figuring out how to integrate second languages into digital asset management systems, because a lot of the time we're hiring people who are not fluent English speakers. A lot of the hard work laborers who will end up utilizing the system as like a trickle down are utilizing languages that are not primarily English. So it's definitely been a movement that I've seen where we're trying to figure out how to integrate into database management these use of foreign languages. Additionally, I would say one of the bigger things that I've seen within my area is project management skills is huge, because a lot of the time they'll throw you into a role where you're labeled as a librarian or an assistant, but like there's a specific project that they want you to work on, and as such they expect you to have certain project management skills because they want you to be able to hit certain deadlines, and things like that are not necessarily something you automatically think of. At least I didn't stepping into my current role, but definitely taking project management coursework and knowing how to break it down into bite-sized pieces so that it doesn't overwhelm me as like a whole project has been super helpful. And then the last one that I know has been really, really big, going into where I am, is like UX and coding. If you can understand your user, or at least know how to ask the right questions so that something functions properly, that is huge, especially when you're dealing with large amounts of data and you're trying to figure out how to make that accessible to people. And then coding, knowing how to code. If you know how to fix it, they're going to pay you the big bucks for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a weird market because I'm records and archives. So I'm really outside of the library side of things. They do a lot of digital assets management, but also I'm in STEM, right? So I'm in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So the second languages, especially in my industry, isn't very helpful. Not to say that second languages aren't super valuable, but I'm in an English-dominated industry. So when I think of additional languages, I think of, like Lauren's saying, with those programming languages, Python, CSS, and knowing how to use Sparkle and SQL, and those are incredibly valuable. So programming languages are really, really important. The other one on the tech side, and I gave a presentation about this at the 2022 keynote for the Information Science Summit. And the big one that I talk to people about are taxonomies, and more specifically ontologies. Incredibly important. And that really doesn't change whether you're in libraries, records and archives, dams. It's all being impacted right now. Especially, taxonomies have been around for a long time, and we're very used to those, but really it's the ontologies. And so if you don't know what ontologies are, I highly, highly recommend you go look at them and start to learn. They're a more complex web format of a taxonomy, less hierarchical and more about linked data and so forth. And that's really the foundation of kind of where records and archives is going, as well as a lot of libraries and digital assets management. So ontologies and if you're, for the technical side of it, but then for the actual computing side of it, getting familiar with semantic technologies is really important.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I think I would just say, I think the language is the big thing. Coming from a public library setting, I think it's some of the important stuff is similar to kind of what's going on in general in the outside world. It's a lot like working on kind of dealing with people and understanding and like those kind of soft skills, like a lot of that, I mean, especially with public libraries, most of the interview questions are very circumstantial questions, and a lot of them have to do with something like, okay, you kind of have like a belligerent patron. You don't know why, what is happening, how do you handle with them? Like, and there's no real right, wrong, it's just, how would you work with them? You're working on something with like a coworker and maybe you're not communicating right. How do you work with them? And kind of in that realm, like there's usually a lot of like EDI, which is that equity, diversity, and inclusion. A lot of that, like bringing in other cultures and other things like that. So I see that kind of also as a thing for the future is inclusion, and also that those soft skills of working people. And I think in general is also like being adaptable and being comfortable with the technology and knowing that was one of the big things for me getting my foot in the door was just, even though I had all this experience, they wanted me to specifically have had experience like working in their cataloging system and stuff. So getting, as soon as you can, getting experience in whatever the specific programs that they want you to work on is good. And then also just being flexible and adaptable to be doing kind of anything and everything, because you know, you're the newest kind of grad, so if you're able to just be like, sure, I'll do that thing, I'll do this thing, I'll do that, and be comfortable with it. So that's kind of what I've seen.
One last thing that I thought of is that in my role, I also have to do outreach, and I have to learn how to do more outreach. I didn't study that particularly at the school, and I think there's probably a class for that I missed. But if there is, take it, especially if you want to work in a public library setting.
All right, lots of really, really good information. And I just wanted to second the linked data thing. I know I'm not a panelist, but my sister-in-law just recently applied for a job at NU, Northwestern University. And one of the first things they asked her was, do you know anything about linked data? So just wanted to mention that real quick. All right, our next question is, how do we get involved in the parent SLA chapter postgraduate or post-graduation? Can you get involved in the SLA chapters before you graduate?
I will jump in on this one. So while I was also a student and doing all of this, I was involved in the Southern California chapter, and I have been involved ever since. So I joined in as their member at large slash membership director role. So it was, very simply, I was doing monthly, generating some monthly reports, looking at membership metrics, and kind of helping provide the board with just some, trends, and kind of advising, hey, look, we've had a drop in membership or an increase in membership, and that kind of just helped the board figure out what they should be doing. Because I was involved already as a student, it made it a much easier transition when I graduated to getting even more involved in the student chapter, in the local chapter. It was kind of a natural transition that when the opportunity came to become vice president, then I could become vice president. So since graduating and starting while I was a student, I've been the membership director for the Southern California chapter, the president-elect, president, and past president. And all of those things kind of led to scholarships to go to conferences that I wasn't expecting to go to. Conference attendance led to larger involvement in the association. So I served as a chair for their membership recruitment program, or their membership recruitment committee for the association. And then that had kind of, really not only got my name out there, but all the participation and attending conferences and things made it so that way I won the Rising Star Award. And I'm not trying to brag there. I'm trying to talk about the fact that getting involved, you get a lot out of it, right? You get those scholarships to go to conferences that you weren't expecting to go to. You get awards that you're not expecting. And all of those things contribute to, advancing your career, helping you get those other jobs, and building that resume. But they also kind of are natural progressions, and to where now I'm, on the board of directors for SLA. So definitely get involved while a student if you can. Even as simply as, I want to be my student chapter liaison. Aaron, I see you there. I'm going to call you out. What became the student chapter liaison from SoCal to SLA SC, and then now has continued on and is growing into other roles in the board right now. So you can definitely do it, and I highly recommend getting involved while you're still a student.
Yeah, I would also say I'm the current San Francisco Bay Area chapter, I guess, community president. And again, it was like JonLuc said, it's very natural progression when you just join and say, hey, I can help with a small thing. People start to realize that you're more and more available. And I think a lot of these communities or these associations, they're more eager than you think to have more people volunteer and help. And just even if it's a small task or an ad hoc like committee to plan something, it's still so helpful. And people need your help more than you think. Like our community, we still want someone to join programming. And if you even just email people, all the information's on the website or different communities' websites. Just never be afraid to reach out. And yeah, I would say, if you see any events, join the events. When you join or attend, more people will remember your name, especially because it's not that big of a group where you're gonna get swallowed up by all the thousands of people joining. They're small like SLASC, and people just really appreciate meeting new people, having fresh blood. It's a great way to. Again, also, I got one of my first contractor jobs because just chatting with someone through SLA, SF Bay Area, and they recommended, oh, join this channel, or I thought of you and sent me a screenshot of a job posting that I was not aware of. So yeah.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, just put yourself out there.
Yeah, one last intervention on that one.
Sure.
I will say if anybody is interested in getting involved in SLA larger, shoot me an email. Believe me, I've got committees, I've got things that I can put you on at the national level, and I can get you into the local chapters too. So if you're really interested in getting involved somewhere, let us know, because we can always use the help. Every professional association needs the help. They will never turn you down. I will say one of the things that does help, though, is finding that association that's right for you. That's kind of your niche. If you're really interested in government, you might want to go to something like Nagara. If you're interested in broad special libraries, obviously there's SLA. If you're interested in medical, there's the Medical Libraries Association. So finding that one that's kind of on that track that you're interested in is very helpful. But then just reaching out. They need your help. They will not turn you away. I will say, though, that I personally find value in the smaller organizations. ALA is a wonderful organization, and if you are going to be in public libraries and stuff, there's nothing wrong with going to ALA. But if you're not going to be in that public sphere, it's a very big organization. It's very easy to get lost in. There are lots of little organizations that need your help, and will see your value very quickly.
Okay, wonderful information, and thank you so much. So their next question is, I'm taking Info 210 online searching with Steiner this semester and really struggling with the workload and content. Were there any classes you took that made you feel discouraged, and how did you overcome the stress and worry?
I guess I'll speak to this one. I think it was the semester before my last. I took I want to say it was a taxonomy class. I don't remember what the number was. Sorry. But it was like taxonomy and hierarchies. And it did not initially click for me. So it took a lot of rewatching lectures, which I hadn't had to do previously, and a lot of note taking and studying to get through the class and understand what was being asked of me and how to do it. And I was very burned out. I will not lie. I was very burned out with that class. It was incredibly exhausting and it was discouraging. But honestly, reaching out to not only members within the SLASC chat and asking people like, hey, has anyone taken this class? Does anyone is anyone willing to help me understand this thing that I'm specifically not understanding? Or even going into, I know there's plenty of Discord groups, and I had joined one of them, and just putting it out there that, hey, I'm taking this class. Has anyone else taken it? Can someone look this over and just talk this through with me, because I'm really not understanding, where I messed up here, or, what am I missing? And there were so many people willing to just reach out with words of encouragement, even if they did not take the class, and telling me that they're going through the same thing and they're figuring it out, and just creating those little communities where, one, you can vent, and two, if you do need the help and someone has already taken the class or is taking it and understanding it, they're totally willing to help out.
I'll jump in here. I don't remember having a class in particular. It's been a while. That really kind of did that to me. But I will say, I'm a member of the faculty. I'm one of the wonderful torturers that you all have to deal with. Talk to us. As a faculty member, I will tell you, we are here to help, and we want to answer questions. We want to assist. We want to help you find those strategies that make things better. And people forget that. And don't wrong, reaching out to your peers, finding those Discord channels, that's all wonderful. And I encourage my students to do it. I set up a Discord for them, and I have channels where they can go and talk that I can't see, and things like that. And there is definitely nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, we are the paid professionals who are here to help you. And you would be amazed at how many people don't come to us. If there's something you're not understanding, if there's something you're struggling with, if you're doing the readings and the content just isn't fitting with you, talk to your professors. They can help give you strategies for how to break down the readings, or maybe answer, maybe give you that missing puzzle piece that just hasn't been connecting, that's, slowing you down on everything else. Go to office hours, schedule times to talk to your professors, ask for a one-on-one Zoom meeting. That's what we're here for. And nobody should be telling you no, if you do that.
I think I would just say I took a class with Steiner, and I recall her being very welcoming. I think we might have had office hours. So if you haven't gone that route, like JonLuc said, so if that's part of the trepidation, from my memory I thought she was a very good teacher. My advice would be, my things were, I think part of it for me sometimes was learning, it seemed so counterintuitive, but taking that break was almost it's almost better to take a break and take time and relax, watch TV, hang out with your pet. It feels like you're I have something to do, I have to do it. And you don't want to take the time, but then you can't do it because you're not taking the time. So it's better just to take the time, go for a walk, do what you need to do. And then somehow you come back and you're okay, it's not so bad, or you can figure it out. And I think for myself, the other thing too was, this is not to say not to do a good job, but I think at some point for myself, I knew I wasn't probably going to do a PhD. I'm not going to go further than a master's. And at the end of the day, what matters is you have this piece of paper that says you can have a master's. So long as you're able to pass the class and get your grades and have a good, at the end of the day, the employers, all they might care is you have an MLAS. So that for me at some point, I think I was stressing. So it was am I going to get an A in this class or a B? At some point, nobody knows if you're an A or you're a B. You have the MLAS, that's what's important. So in terms of the level that you stress yourself at, you can set your own goals, but for myself at some point that was okay, the goal is to do a good job, but ultimately just pass, and at the end of the day you get the fancy piece of paper, and don't go bananas if it's not going to be perfect. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry, I have one more thing to add.
Sure, no problem. I wait, and then there's a little bit of silence, and then yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. I would say sometimes it's easier if you try to think of the assignment in a way that how will this help me in the future if you can select a topic or a subject that you're I know that people say this all the time, but select a topic or a subject or a research question that you're really interested in, because that will build kind of your resume and your niche in the industry or whatever job you're looking for. I structured a lot of my assignments and papers around bilingualism and multilingualism, and I didn't even know that I would go into digital asset management. I wanted to do public librarianship, and having that kind of theme, I guess, running throughout my MLIS career made me even more interested because I could get really deep and spend more time with each project getting deeper. And I kind of already had the background knowledge of like, okay, I know the structure or the basis of the literature in this field. And then the more familiar you you feel more confident in that area of literature. And it just makes you, at least it made me more interested because I felt like I could get really deep and not just, move on to another topic each semester. It's just you look at the topic from a different lens based on your class, but maybe the topic is the same, and then you feel like that's kind of your niche. I hope that makes sense, but
Okay, wonderful. So we're getting a lot of questions about skills, skill sets, and talking about those skill sets and what that looks like in the interview and your day-to-day, job. So I guess I'm going to try, for the sake of time, because I really want to get to everybody, to combine these a little bit. So one of the questions is, what skill sets do you use the most? And when it comes to tech skills, did you have to demonstrate your abilities with those technology, or did you just talk about them, like your past experiences with them? And I'll try to keep it to that so it's not too confusing.
I can answer that. I'm sure other people will weigh in as well. But for online searching is one of the biggest things that I do, because there are constantly reference questions that we have to do. So that's probably the biggest right now that I use is the online searching skills that I had. For the interviews themselves, they give you situations that you have to answer how you would respond in those situations, with maybe an angry patron, or with what would happen if you are asked such and such. As far as the skills that we had to demonstrate, yes, I did have to do. I had to explore our county systems digital assets, digital databases and things, and then I had to do a 2-minute presentation on how I would explain that to a patron. So it helps to be really familiar with, even if you're not working yet, look at your local libraries or any libraries, digital things, see what they offer and explore them. And that way, that'll also help you get comfortable with doing that sort of thing in an interview.
Yeah, I usually say as entry level, especially, but when you're going in internships, I have found for both myself and, people that I've mentored and students and things, knowing a little bit about a lot of things is very helpful. An interview is a relatively short amount of time for them to get to know you and to understand what you do, and what you know. And the reality is, in most workplaces, in most places, they're not going to be able to get that in-depth check, right? To see if you really how much experience you have in an area. And I have found that, in a lot of jobs and in a lot of markets, you're going to fake it till you make it. And so if you know enough, to sound confident and informed in an interview or in a series of interviews, that they say, okay, this is somebody who at least knows enough to get started. That's usually enough to get you in the door and on the job, where you're going to end up doing most of your learning anyways, right? I work in records and archives. As much as I knew about archives and records before going into the position, it really didn't matter. What mattered was I knew what a retention schedule was. I knew what a collection development policy was. I knew what these things were, because once I got into the industry and once I actually got into the workplace, everything I knew about a retention schedule, almost everything I knew about a retention schedule went out the window, right? Because now I'm working with two different retention schedules, very nuanced, very niche retention schedules. Same thing with collection development policies and so forth. But the fact was, I knew what they were for, and I knew the foundations of them, and then I learned the rest on the job. And that goes into the digital assets management work that I do. It goes into the FOIA work that I do. It goes into information configuration management, which I knew nothing about other than to know what versioning was and version controls. To me, it's about knowing a little bit about a lot of things to help you navigate and try to get your foot in the door.
I think I was going to say was, in my experience, I haven't had to demonstrate any skills. I think maybe in some of my reviews, it's come up of my comfortability with it, which maybe has helped in some of my, in applying for things within my system. But I was just going to say, in terms of interviewing, even though I haven't had to demonstrate anything, do your best to always, especially for the government system that I'm in, I think it's kind of funky. It's like they don't necessarily see your resume, or you can't guarantee what information they've got who's interviewing you, essentially. So just don't ever forget to bring up anything and everything that you can, because you never really know what information they're going to have about you when you get to that point. So just do your best to try to always, if there's something you're like, oh, that, even if it was on your resume, just bring it up if you can in some way. Remember that important point, because that's what I found is a lot of times, and especially in some of the systems, when you do the whole online stuff, but you never know what people who are interviewing you have, what information they have. So just always try to pinpoint and bring up the things that are important. And also don't forget the things that are important to you too, when JonLuc was saying that you basically do kind of learn on the job. Kind of, if I remember that too, what are the things you do like, when you're bringing up those things, and examples, kind of know, oh, this is of interest to me, so that it can help you help them, and figure out where you're gonna be, or what's gonna open up for you as an option, or what you could be working on. Lauren, you had something.
I was going to say, if you are working or have an internship somewhere, to keep a really detailed record of what you do on a day-to-day basis, because sometimes it's easy to forget the details, or you wear a lot of different hats as an intern, and it's nice to be able to refer back to each day I accomplished this task, and then you can also use it when you're writing your cover letters or your resume to be able to synthesize that or refer to specific examples, because I think the examples and the details really help when you're interviewing. And as well as far as your company or organization allows you to keep a record of everything that you've done. And I know some companies might not allow you to download whatever information you've done, but if you do have a way to you have your personal spreadsheet that help you work on something, or you are allowed to take screenshots just for your personal record keeping purposes. I know everyone's doing that for their e-portfolio, but to do it as well. Because for one of my interviews, I had to give a presentation, and it was really helpful to be able to pull up spreadsheets and share my screen or project it on the wall and show people exactly what I did. And having those, I guess, evidence really helped. So if you can, just remember to download everything the way you would after a class.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here and for being a part of this panel. It has been so nice to see all of your faces. And I'm going to send out an email probably tomorrow with your contact information for everybody who attended if they want to connect with you. I saw JonLuc already put some of his info in there, so thank you. I'm going to share my screen one more time. If you want to join SLASC, we have some open positions for our EC if this event sold us to you. So join us on our Discord. We dropped that in the chat. We have virtual study groups coming up. We have some vacancies, so please contact Rosine if you want to be a part of our SLASC EC. We would love to have you. And thank you, Tina. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, JonLuc. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Sereen. Did I mention everybody? And Hannah and Tina, Lauren. I make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. Okay, beautiful. Thank you all for being here. It's truly a pleasure, and I hope that you all have a wonderful night. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, SLASC.
Thanks, everybody.